My name is Leonard Schaefer, and I served in the United States Air Force Reserve from 1962 until 1972 and attained the rank of technical sergeant. And my duties were to repair engines on aircraft that supplied the troops in Vietnam.
My name is Neil Friedman. I served during the Vietnam War. I was in from 1963 to 1969. I served in the United States Air Force as an airman third class.
My name is Neil Mitchell. I served in the United States Army from 1963 to 1969. What was unusual in my case is that I joined the United States Army Reserve from California and served in that capacity until 1968, when I was sent to join a unit of the Rhode Island National Guard, the 107th Signal Company, and we were then sent to Vietnam. I came home in August of 1969, and I was a Specialist Fourth, which is the equivalent of a corporal.
My name is Alan Levitt. I spent 6 months on active duty in 1962 and 10 years in the Army Reserves, and I left the military as a captain.
My name is Bruce Newman. I served during the Cold War, largely unrecognized period of our history, I might add. From 1959 to 1962 on active duty. I was extended for the Berlin crisis. About the time we thought we were going home, at the pleasure of the president, you've been extended. I was an officer in the Navy. I left the Navy as a lieutenant, and my responsibilities aboard ship, I had sea duty almost immediately. And it took a 22-year-old Jewish kid from California and turned him into the supervisor of 30 variously educated people from all over the country.
Okay, my name is Herbert Jaffe. I was in the Army from 1950 to 1952. I was drafted, and in fact, I was drafted on Rosh Hashanah, and thankfully my mother told me, don't change it. Whatever the Army says, do it. And I went into the Army. And I was fortunate because just on that day, on Rosh Hashanah, they were forming a new division to go over to Germany. So if I hadn't listened to my mother, I might have ended up in Korea and be dead. Anyway, I was in the Army of Occupation in Germany as part of the 4th Division. I was a corporal in the finance department. Surprisingly enough, they put me in something that I was familiar with. And we were stationed in Frankfurt.
Hello, my name is B.J. Deculus. I served in the United States Army from 1964 to 1967. I was assigned to South Korea in the first half of my service, and the second half was done at Fort Rucker, Alabama. The medals and commendation I received was a Good Conduct Medal and the Sharpshooter Medal.
My name's Ira Karnofsky. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was drafted into the military October 29th, 1968. I left the service June 2nd, 1970. While in the service, I was, like I said, a Vietnam veteran. I was military, but assigned to the 101st Airborne, which meant I had to learn how to jump out of airplanes and rappel from helicopters. What fun that was. As a medic, I did whatever I had to do as a medic. I mean, I was being like a doctor with basically first aid type of training.
I went in as an ambulance driver. That was the job that was open. I'd never had any experience in being an ambulance driver, and nor did I have much training. And my bigger challenge was I couldn't stand the sight of blood. So there was an occasion where I had to go out on a run with an aide, a med tech, they called them. And when we got to the site we were at, he grabbed his box. He said, "Follow me." And as soon as I got there, I passed out.
I personally saw Pearl Harbor, the Arizona, before the monument went up. It's one of the experiences. I still get goosepimples talking about this. But we were at quarters on the ship that I was on, and we passed in review. And because the Arizona was the senior ship and technically still in commission, everybody stood at quarters and saluted as we went by. So here, it's incredible to this day. And 6 months later on that tour, we're in Nagasaki at Ground Zero, the second target. So that sort of formed my impressions of what we're doing with preparedness and war and what it means to be there.
And the B-52 bombers were always armed with nuclear weapons. We never knew if it was an exercise or it was real. It still has an effect. God, I haven't talked about this for a long time. We didn't know if the bombers and the air tankers that were taking off were off on an exercise, a drill, and they didn't know either until they reached the no return point. If they were called back at that point, they came back to the base. If they weren't, they knew they were on their way to drop their load someplace in the world.
My worldview was just very small. It was based on the place that I was raised. And when I went overseas, it just opened up my view tremendously. To see another people, another culture, in another part of the world showed me that we were all the same and we all have the same degree of success, suffering, family, kids, and whatnot.
Well, I learned that occasionally, and I'm glad it was only occasionally, you have to put your life on the line.
I learned to deal with all kinds of people from all kinds of walks of life. Being in the medical business, profession there, you came across people from every single state, every single walk of life, anything you could possibly think of, and communicating with people turned out to be a very positive feature in my life.
One thing I did while I was on one of my furloughs, I went to where the trial was, where Goering committed suicide, and I spoke to the colonel in charge there, and he was very surprised because this was 1950, and he said already people have forgotten about it. Nobody comes there to see the trial, the courthouse or anything. He took me to see where the Germans were kept, and he took me to the jail, the cell where Goering committed suicide. That was very emotional.
What I learned in the military is you never sass back to a higher ranked officer.
And so I got a lot out of it. And I learned a lot of life lessons while I was on active duty.
I served with pride and I fulfilled an obligation, and I'm very happy I did it. And I'm still proud to say that I was part of the United States Air Force, to the point I have a flag in my yard, and one of the flags below the United States flag is the U.S. Air Force flag.
What it means to me is an honor today to be respected as a veteran. At the time that I was doing the military service, I didn't think that the honor that I'm receiving today would tag along for so many years thereafter. but just the fact that every year that we celebrated Veterans Day and to be part of that group means a lot to me.
For me, to have been a veteran means I'm a member of a rather exclusive society within the United States.
I get emails from colleagues. I get telephone calls from lots of people. I even got a phone call last week from my banker thanking me for my service, where when I got out of the service, I got nothing.
Sometimes it's a little embarrassing when somebody says, thank you, because it was so long ago and there were so many people who did more than I did.
I will never forget the training that I received and how much I grew in just a span of 3 years.
I grew up. I think I matured. I learned what it was to be with a group of different individuals from different parts of the country, different ethnicities. And it just gave me a bigger perspective on people and life and how to get along with each other.
People, when they find out I'm a veteran around Veterans Day, they say that, thank you for your service.